Welcome to The Landline with Mike Fisher, where we dive into how to sell farms, land, and commercial properties. Today, we walk the line with Jennifer Jones, my team leader at eXp Realty, and we'll be talking about a terrible accident that almost ended everything for me, how I overcame the hard times, and my new approach to life and real estate.
Hey everyone, I am here today with Mike Fisher, the amazing guy realtor who's up in the Georgina area specifically, but really York region, Simcoe, Durham, like you're covering all of South and Central Ontario, right, Mike?
That's correct, yep, all the way down to London, all the way up to like Bobcaygeon and around.
Yeah, which is so wild. And so Mike is our team expert in farms and land, particularly developments. So you have quite a few listings up right now, opportunities. So do you want to maybe just touch on that for a couple of minutes before we get started into your story on what do we currently have listed for you and what are the big opportunities right now that you're excited about?
Yeah, we have quite a few great development opportunities mostly in the Georgina area. We have a couple out in Kawartha Lakes. Jumping onto a couple of projects with a few colleagues that are great to bring on board, and vice versa. We have that 24-unit townhouse development happening in Jackson's Point, right down the road from our office, which is really unique because we did like a shift prior to listing it. And we're actually going to resubmit to the town, so it can be anywhere from 18 to 24 duplex units that will qualify for CMHC MLI Select, which is really cool and a great opportunity for investors over like a 30-year span. So,
Yeah. Well, to have that kind of financing right off the bat, that is a big deal. So everyone pay attention to that. Another neat thing, I like to tell the story about the listing you and Steph had in Georgina, where it had been listed for how long?
on and off for about a year. We got called into that one, and Steph and I jumped on it together. And the main focus on that listing, it was a 10-acre property. The main focus on that one was the house. And don't get me wrong, the house it's beautiful and it's all redone and it's great. However, the main point they were missing to all of it is that it was actually fully set up for indoor growing facilities. And they kind of missed the mark on it. And it was actually to the specs of like Health Canada, which is extremely difficult to do. But they were missing like the 600 volts hydro coming in, the 2-inch gas lines, and indoor watering systems. Like they're missing all of it completely. We're talking tens and tens of thousands of square feet of like greenhouse potential. So they missed the mark on that a little bit. Steph and I shifted, did like a fun video on social media, just short, sweet, little catch line, all that kind of stuff. We hooked them a little bit, basically that it could be a grow up because it was a legal grow up at one point. And we sold it quite quickly, I think in about 9 days.
Hey, Mike, I'm here with the videographer. Sell me this property in one sentence.
Well, you can grow your weed here.
Yeah, which was amazing. Yeah, and I think just that it's, again, for, you're an agent out there, for you to be called in and go list a property that's rural, that has land, are you selling it for the highest and best use, or are you selling the seller short and either A, potentially not going to get it sold like this other one, or selling it for less than what it could have been sold for because it actually had a different purpose, a different higher purpose, and therefore it would have had a higher value as well, right?
Most definitely. I find a lot inside this space of real estate that, people are missing the mark a little bit. And, I did a training with the team recently, and people are putting up listings or land or future development or whatever it might be. And they're putting the zonings from Geo Warehouse onto these listings without actually verifying with whatever township. It doesn't need to be Georgina. We work all over the place. But like they're putting the zoning for this property in the permitted, not even the permitted uses, but the zoning doesn't even exist half the time in these townships. So they're not doing their clients a service. What they're doing is pending trouble down the road. So like you need to know the proper zoning and how to get it. What are the permitted uses now? But more importantly, what are the permitted uses in the future?
Yeah, I love that. And that's one big thing that I wanted to point out. If you're an agent or you're a new agent wanting to get into farm, rural land development, all of those things. Mike does everything, and this is something that he definitely is what I would call a specialist in. So if even you're an agent, you have a property like that coming up, a listing coming up, you could be even with a different brokerage.
Mm-hmm.
Mike is still someone that could partner with you and list that property and make sure that it's done properly. So, yeah. And Mike, how would they get a hold of you for those agents that want to reach out? How would they, what's the best way?
Best way is probably, I am a huge, I love relationship building. The best way to get a hold of me is to call me. I text and email and everything else, but definitely call my cell phone number. Do you want me to say it?
Yeah, let's do it.
647-330-2033. Call me. We can have a chat about it. We can go into detail. Always happy to help on projects like this.
Yeah, I love that. And that's actually a great little tip right there, which is just the way I just asked Mike, what's the best way to get a hold of you? And Mike says it's actually to call or text me. Here's my cell phone. When we're working with clients, we'll say, what is the best method of communication for you? Your preferred method of contact? Is it text, email, or a phone call? And whatever that is, we do that, right? Because what's the truth, Mike? Like if you're someone that loves to talk on the phone, and I'm a texter, which I am, right? And I'm your client, and you want to call me all the time, but I don't like to talk. I just want to text. What's happening to our relationship while I haven't heard you?
Well, we're kind of driving a little bit of a wedge in there a little bit.
Right?
We run this on our personal level too. Jen is definitely a texter and just wants to get the immediate results. And I can sit on the phone for half an hour. I allot time for clients to sit on the phone like for an hour or whatever. That's the way I prefer to do it. But if they have preferred communication, that's the way we roll with them.
Exactly. Yeah, I think that's so good. And Mike, you have an incredible story, just even your life and, how you've come to where you are today. So do you want to take us back into sort of I would say like where you grew up and what you went through that took you through to where you are now?
Yeah, sure. It's kind of a funny timeline to be, even talking about it. I grew up in a small town in southwestern Ontario, down by Sarnia, and it was called Forest, basically on Lake Huron, which was phenomenal. It's beautiful beaches down there. It was had a great childhood growing up. My parents were always big into, they own a bunch of rentals. So I've always kind of been immersed into it. On and off the years, they've kind of sold them off going into retirement, but they own quite a few at one point. So my dad and my parents they come from trades. So I've been fully immersed in that my whole life too. But the big portion of me is when I was graduating high school. I just graduated high school actually. And on August 5th, which we're rolling into, today's July 30th, of 2005, I was involved in a motorcycle accident. I was actually hit by a drunk driver that left me there. So unfortunately, at that point, at the ripe age of 18 and going to college that following fall, I got into the motorcycle accident, and I ended up ultimately losing one of my legs, and I have plates and stuff and fake teeth and everything else all over the place. But yeah, I also ultimately almost lost my life on that accident there. But thankfully for some people in the neighborhood, they saved me and got me all sorted out.
So how long were you there? So you were hit by this drunk driver, and then how long did it take for you to get help from that point?
It wasn't too long. I don't really remember how long I was there. It wasn't long because I actually ended up in a older lady's front yard, and she heard the whole thing and then came out and saw me. So there's a bit of a gray area there a little bit. However, yeah, she came out and other neighbors and stuff heard, so they called 911. The crazy part of the whole story is I was actually not even on my own motorcycle. I was on my friend's motorcycle. We used to ride together. I did have my own, but I was on his. And my parents were around the corner. So my friends that I was with and my parents were actually some of the first people to me, which was pretty wild for that to even happen that close to where they were, yet alone for them to come see me. The difficult part for my parents to see me like that and my friends, one of the first responders to me was actually my uncle. So that was pretty devastating for him. He has a weird way of coping with it still to this day. I don't see him very often, but he just kind of makes jokes about it, and that's the way he deals with it. So I spent some time in the hospital at 18. I'm obviously an adult at 18, I ultimately had to make the decision to either try to save my leg or to amputate it at that point, which is a life-altering decision at such a young age. So,
Yes.
sat with the surgeons and they said, I said, what are the options? Like, what am I looking for turnaround time? And they said, you could be in and out of the hospital for the rest of your life and maybe ultimately lose it down the road. However, if you do decide to amputate it, you can be back on your feet in like a year or a couple months or whatever it might be. And, prosthetics are pretty great nowadays. You can live a full life through it. So I ultimately went that route, along with some other surgery decisions with plates and all that stuff.
That's what a wild decision to have to make though at that age. Like that is, and really to make the decision, not try to hang on to something like, oh, well, maybe I can save it. You're like, nope, just get rid of it and let's keep going.
That's right. The biggest, determination, and it doesn't matter which way you shape in your life, is like I was determined. I was still going to college in that fall, and I did. So that was only like a month or
Wow.
days roughly after the accident, and I had a prosthetic. So I actually went to college that fall. It was actually, if I could do it physically, it was the advice of like some doctors and stuff that would keep you occupied, because something so traumatic can actually do adverse, and you can go down a little bit of a rabbit hole there with being depressed and stuff. So yeah, ended up going to school. So it was great.
Wow. Now, what did you take in school?
Funny enough, actually, I took architectural design.
Wow.
I didn't do very well. So I actually shifted, and my personality type, I took social work. So I did that, which was great. And I worked in it for a number of years after I graduated. So it was pretty neat.
Yeah, I could see that. You're such a patient, kind person and you're a great listener. So I could absolutely see you doing that. And that cheeky grin always. Like cheeky grin. He's always got like some interesting angle and perspective on something. I love that about you.
Definitely.
So, okay, so fast forward. So now you've been working in social work and you were also snowboarding. So do you want to get into sort of what you were doing with that?
Yeah, absolutely. That was probably the best era of my life, to be honest with you. I'm living it now, but I mean, like, it was so cool to experience what we went through. I was always an avid snowboarder, and I was a travel hockey player my whole life as well. But I stuck with the snowboarding route, and then after my accident, I got right back into snowboarding that following winter. I found out there was actually a whole organization in Canada and the United States and Europe later that we found out for like disabled snowboarders. I know it's big into skiing, but at snowboarding at the time, it wasn't really a thing. It wasn't like in the Olympics or anything. So I actually went to a training camp over in Quebec.
Wow.
Yeah, so I went over there and I went and I participated, let's put it that way. And at the end of the day, the volunteers came over and thanked me for volunteering. And I was actually like, no, I was here trying out. Like, I want to like try out and go compete. And they're like, holy crap. So I literally got a call within a couple of days from the Canadian national coach. And then within about a couple of weeks, I was flown out to Whistler and I competed in my first World Cup.
Wow.
Third in my first one. So
That's so cool.
yeah, it was cool. So my first year into it, I was ranked like third in the world. Those rankings went all over the place for a while, but it actually ultimately became a full-time career for me. After I got my motorcycle accident, about just over a year and a bit, I was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes at the age of 19, which they still think it's a correlation to my accident, whether that be the stress, the trauma, or like actually part of the accident itself. So as I got into the snowboarding aspect, being creative, I went out and I found sponsors from pharmaceutical companies.
Wow.
So Johnson & Johnson, which we're all familiar with, they actually had a sister company that created insulin pumps. So I was actually sponsored by them. And the coolest part for me with that sponsorship is that in my off season, I got to travel with other athletes, famous country music singers, and I got to travel over the country in the United States doing speaking engagements to children with juvenile diabetes. So it was really unique. So that kept my snowboarding career afloat. And along the way, a couple of teammates and I, we actually stood in front of the International Paralympic Committee and vouched for snowboarding, bordercross in particular, to be included in the Paralympic Games. So I basically was doing all that. I qualified for, all through the years, we travel all over the place doing World Cups and stuff, but I qualified for Sochi in 2014. And unfortunately, about a month prior to us leaving for Sochi, we had a World Cup down in Denver, Colorado, and I was injured, which ultimately ended my career with concussion number 11. So I didn't get to go to Sochi. My teammates went; they all did really well. Unfortunately for me, that's where my career ended at that point.
Wow. Now, from there, how do we get into real estate? Because that is like it's like me, right? It's like, how do I go from horse racing into real estate, right?
What's low impact? No, because, but I was always intrigued by it. Like I said, everyone's, oh, I love houses, where, but I was actually fully immersed in it through my parents and owning the real estate throughout the years there too. So I was fully immersed, and I wanted to get back into it. So my wife now, Sky, she was my girlfriend at the time. We actually moved back from Vancouver, where we were living, because I was training out of Vancouver. She was raised up in the Georgina area, and we wanted to be by a lake, and we actually landed in Jackson's Point. At that point, I felt like the right fit for me was to be in real estate. I thought it was all about relationship building, taking my social work background, my real estate background, my trade background with my parents, and really putting that into one profession, and that was real estate for me.
Yeah, and I think that is so cool and fascinating because like your whole life you've shown like that overcoming, tenacity, persistence, like the importance of relationships and connecting with people and giving back in the community. You've been a big proponent of that as well. So yeah, it's like the perfect fit, right? Where everything kind of comes together. So when you first got started in real estate, you joined another team up
Yep.
in Jackson's Point.
Yep.
And then I met you at, it was actually a property on Kennedy Road. I still remember that.
It was, yeah.
Mhm.
I met Jen, and actually, when I met Jen, she had an office in Jackson's Point as well, which is super hilarious because our office is back there again. So I found what Jen was doing in real estate really fascinating. Not that she was selling a lot of real estate. It's impressive, but there's a lot of people that were doing okay. But Jen was above and beyond. But she was literally setting the standards in our area for valuation, what properties look like, how listings went up, how you presented them, how you presented yourself. So that really intrigued me. So I actually switched companies and kind of started tagging along with Jen.
Yeah. And yeah, so grateful. Like it immediately, you have this incredible energy about you. Like I would say that like you have that X factor, that's something special. And yeah, I was just so grateful to have you. And so Mike, you'd been with us for a couple of years and then ventured off on your own, right? Did your own thing for a while there.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And returned to team. What's it been now? Is it a year?
Just over a year. Yeah.
Wow. I can't keep track. So, and I think for you, like it looks to me like you love the collaboration and like working with people. Like just, it's different being on your own, right? Because I was on my own, obviously, at the beginning. So that was it was like 2 years fully of on my own. Then I hired Sarah Park and then started the team like at the end of that third year. So how did you find working on your own versus team?
You know, there was, first and foremost, so anyone that is getting new into the business, I really have to elaborate on the value of a good team. And I would recommend it to anybody. Obviously, do shop around, do whatever. And there's just so much support in it. However, I was at a point where, and Jen, you know this backstory, but I always wanted to be like in commercial real estate, not necessarily commercial buildings and leasing and all that kind of stuff, but like a broader vision of it, of basically
Yes.
what I know. And I was always told that I needed so many years and experience in residential, even like when I was going through school. Not that you had to do it, but like they advised you get some residential background and then jump into commercial. Well, at that point, I was doing a lot with Jen. We were doing cool waterfronts. We were kind of doing it all. And I felt at that point it was maybe to go to a company where I could really expand my knowledge on something like that. Which
100%.
which, you really get perspective when you go work on your own. It is extremely challenging. It can be really rewarding as well. And I mean, lots of people do great on their own. And then, I got some experience in where I wanted to go, gain a bunch of knowledge, learned a lot of trial and error on my own. So just over a year ago, gave Jenn a call, which we've known each other forever, and said, would you be open to maybe having this side of a business tied to your huge team that you've grown? Like when I left, I think there was with like your assistants and office staff, I think there was like 10 or 12. And when I came,
right.
You're about 6. So like a huge growth in about not even a 5-year span. There was massive growth inside the team. And ultimately for what I was doing, coming back to the team, first off, the back end support was really what I was lacking. I love the massive branding name to it, but something where you have an idea and you have the backing for it, you're going to be supported. That was huge for me.
Yeah. And I think it's been such a blessing having you, and you're co-listed on so many different properties within the team. Anyone who's listing that kind of property is reaching out to Mike and saying, hey, I need an assist on this. I need a co-list. And I think that's the blessing of having, different people that specialize in different kinds of properties within the team. So yeah, we're so grateful for you and appreciate you every single day, Michael Fisher, every single day.
It's more along the lines of like, I work with 2 individuals on the team quite often, and we all have such different strengths, and like we really balance each other. And it's nice, like I call them the girls in the office, but the girls are in the office, and we even do like our own listing audits. Like we say, how's my listing look? Where am I lacking? What do you think? What are your opinions? And we all give our input, and we work so well in that aspect together. And there's like a nice balance of when we do co-list with other people on the team as well. People have different strengths in different areas. I have another one with Jake on the team. He's so great. He's so detail oriented, and I'm all about hitting the phone and relationship building and getting the clients in. So like, it's a really good balance for us.
Yeah, I love it. I think it's just so brilliant. So where is it you see yourself? Like, if you look forward in your life, like 5 years, 10 years from now, what is it that you want?
Inside of a real estate, I basically, and I'm almost like not to like the caliber I want to be, but I want to strictly be like commercial land development, farmland, really what I'm passionate about. And I basically have almost come to that point now. I hardly touch at all in the residential. I have the team support if something comes up that I can pass it along to them, or we can work on it together. So in a big span, and something that really got me fascinated about land and development in the first place is that I'm sure everyone has done this. You drive by like a house that you sold or a waterfront that you sold, and you said, I sold that, or you tell your friends and your family you're so proud of it, and like it's so beautiful, especially the waterfronts you're selling on a hedge, like come on, right? So what's really passionate and I love so much is that I want to drive by like land that I've sold or I've been involved in a transaction and be like, that is all developed. There's 2,000 homes in that neighborhood because I put that transaction together. That's what I'm super passionate about, and I want to scale that like tenfold. So
I love that.
Yeah,
that's amazing. And I think another interesting thing, like we've been through 3.5 years of a more interesting market within real estate, especially for the Toronto Real Estate Board, which we're a part of. If you like, what's the learning been? Like I look at it and say, I think going through leaner years, 3.5 years of leaner. Yes, we still are within the top 10 of the Toronto Real Estate Board. We're outperforming. Mm-hmm. We still increase and move up that list. And kind of the realization of like what's really important and money, and also being aware that like we were spending so much, and as you make more, you spend more. And then when you go through that kind of market adjustment, it takes time to kind of like cut your expenses and catch up. So I feel like for me, I think really understanding that even as a realtor going forward now, we would be, and I say we, I'll bring Keith into this, my husband, we would be so much more like, I think just careful about making sure we're actually saving money and doing something specifically with it rather than necessarily having that lifestyle. And I know that you and Sky have talked about, that just that enjoyment, and you've moved back to farm, right? To being on a farm and that simple lifestyle. So do you want to speak to that a little bit? Because I think agents go, oh, I'm going to become a realtor and I'm driving a Lambo and a Ferrari. And yes,
Yep.
if you work hard, you can absolutely do that. And even if you do that, you still have to make sure at the end of the day that you're taking a percentage and putting it away, right? Understanding that, real estate runs in these approximately 7-year cycles, but we're running cycles.
Most definitely. And like the biggest thing I could vouch for is like be passionate about what you do, and like the money will follow it for sure. Now, really scaling back on your life, and you live and you learn and you go through the ups and downs of a lot of things. Trust me, we all get into real estate, we see the big paychecks. I still remember the biggest one I ever got. I could tell you the money amount right now, but it's like 67,000 was the biggest one. And then my biggest one that I got, I was like, holy man, this is amazing. I actually did a deal with Jenn on Hedge Road, and I remember it. I remember the property. I remember the process. I remember every word we said. And I remember we had to pick up checks at this point. I remember picking it up and being like, holy smokes, this is awesome. So naturally, you go buy the nice car, right? That's what we all do in real estate. We got to drive the nice car.
Right? Well, and I think that's it. Like, it's like a learning process. But if you're speaking to a new agent and saying, you have not yet been through, a really tough market and where you've seen things flying and then correct. You and I have been through a few, not as significant as the one now. This correction in North American real estate is the most significant in 30 years. People don't realize that. That comes from eXp Realty Brokerage providing that information based on all the stats. But yeah, like the advice would be, you see the check, you go, oh, I'm going to go out and buy this really cool car, right?
That's when the markets are good though, and you see it roll. And you need to really have a quick realization of like what markets that you're working in. Like, for example, let's just say for residential, and I actually checked in with one of our accountability calls, what the time frame that you're working for. Is it like that, a 60 to 90 day time frame out? Is it still that? Has it pushed to 120 days that you're working out to have like a closing or even a firm deal? That's pretty normal in like residential, maybe not so now. However, when I started working in a new space, I'm working anywhere from 8 to 12 months out now. So you need to realize what you're actually working with and how long it's going to take to actually sell those properties, even especially in current market, until you're getting your paychecks. I even have a couple, and I can vouch for this, that are like 2 years out, and I actually have one project I've been working on for 5 years. So it's like you really need to pay attention, really scale back your life and be passionate about your work. And that's what's going to drive you more than the money.
Yeah. And then taking that money and budgeting, right? And I think something great that eXp Realty's done now is saying, hey, we will allow you to have us hold that HST. You just sign off on a form and they'll hold the HST of every deal because it's not our money. And same thing, you can also take a percentage off. So if you're not in a prec, let's say you're a newer agent starting out, you're probably going to pay, 30 to 40% of what you're earning to the government. So having that taken off right at the top where you never see it until, if you're paying monthly or quarterly or semi-annual, annual. And I think that is great because how many people you're like, oh, I'll just pay that HST back, right? As I do more deals, right?
Yep.
So I think it's so important that people, make sure that they're being conservative with money at first and putting some money away for the future. It sounds like for commercial land, you would almost want to have like a year of income, right? That's, invested somewhere where you could access it if you needed to, right? And for residential, the advice is really 6 months. Mm-hmm. But it's interesting, like we've said, like the action you take today for regular residential real estate would tend to close 90 days from now, right? Yep. Well, that's if it sells, right? So the truth is, and we have one property Jake just sold that was 2 years to sell it. We have quite a few of those. If you're in a luxury higher price point or anything unique, you could be a year to 2 years to sell that property.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's super important. Now, who was someone in your life that either inspired you to become who you are, or because of them, you made a decision not to be a particular way? Like, can you think back, like even to being a kid when you're like 10 years old, looking around at your life? Like, do you have that moment?
I have a few moments, to be honest with you, because I went through a couple of different scenarios in my life, from like pre-accident, after accident, to being an athlete, now into real estate. So there's like, growing up, my parents were always like, they were a good inspiration. They always worked hard. They invested their money into real estate, which I thought was really awesome. And then into my later years, especially like during when I was snowboarding and stuff, a lot of my motivation came from my coach and my teammates. So like really utilizing where I was in that space. And then to my not my later years, but like through my career and into my real estate career, it's obviously my wife, Sky, who would be my biggest inspiration. Everyone has their big why and why we do real estate or anything we do in our lives, and she's mine. And a lot of that, even how we live now, is because of scaling back and enjoying our time together and being on a property, which is important to us, and how we want to raise a family in the future. So like, there's a lot of different aspects of why I've been shaped into what I am. Inside the real estate world, I'd probably say it would be Jenn Jones for sure. Looping back, even why I came to switch over to Keller Williams when you were there years ago in the first place, right? So just like super passionate on, and now the team, like we put up such phenomenal listings, but it wasn't like that then at all. And you were doing super, like I look at some of the old listings. There's a couple houses you sold that I love, and I look at the listings now. I'm like, wow, those were good then.
If you don't get that price right, it will sit on the market and sit on the market and sit on the market, right?
Yeah.
But I think ultimately, yeah, you just have to focus down as a realtor on being excited and passionate about whatever it is. And if you're not excited about the price and you don't think, wow, if I put it up at this price, I would want to buy it, right? Then the truth is no one else is going to feel that way either. So like knowing the comps, going through all of that, but also using your gut.
Mm-hmm.
If you know the market and you've been through those other properties that have sold or are currently for sale, and you don't feel this is the best one out there competing right now, then chances are no one else is going to think that way either, right?
Yeah, and you got to hit the nail on the head with pricing. However, especially in the space that I work in, you really need to know what the best use of that property is now and in the future, like we talked about. You can really scale. And like, my favorite one to date is not the biggest transaction I've ever done, but it was like 2 years ago, or maybe 3 years ago. I got called in to evaluate a house from a client that I was trying to get for a long time. He had another realtor that he worked with. I won't mention what area this is in because it'll be a dead giveaway. And he told him he would list it for $650,000, probably get around 600 grand for it. So he called me. I said, give me 2 days. That's always like kind of my answer. Give me a day or two. I got to dive into this a little bit. So like, you really got to know what you're talking about. It comes to find out that area, the property beside it was actually being developed into, I believe, 12 or 18 stacked townhouses.
Wow.
And if you looked into the secondary plans along that road, that's what that whole stretch was going to be. So we pitched it like that as the future development. And this is what the neighboring property is doing. And we checked with the town that we were dealing with that you could piggyback on it. So we ended up selling that property for $1.4 million in multiple offers.
Wow. Yeah. And that right then and there, right? Right then and there, how many times has someone sold something and undersold it based on what it could have been? That's a perfect example.
We've more than doubled.
We've always said, like, we have you now, but even prior to having you, it was always, okay, if it's vacant land or something that's interesting, we need to go to Mike Smith, right? Mm-hmm. Who's a planner, and essentially look at what is the highest and best use for this property. And they would always come back with this is what could be done, right? I always love his response. You send him like a vacant land, it'd be rural, like it would be septic well property. It's probably got some conservation on it.
Oh, for
You
sure.
send him something and it's like, hey, what could we do with this, Mike? And he's like, well, the property's still for sale, right? Like basically for any vacant land that is now left over in the area, chances are it's going to be a very complicated build with a lot of restrictions. Like there is not going to be a lot of straightforward left at this point, right? Small little lot somewhere. It was so funny.
They can be extremely challenging, especially where we primarily work in like the Georgina, York area. They can get complicated with restrictions, and again, like, know your stuff. And if you are listing something and you are saying, hey, this is a building lot, which I don't sell a ton of anymore, can you actually build on it?
Yeah.
Have you checked? Like, have you verified this? Because you're going to be in trouble.
And that's the funny thing, right? So our job working as a listing agent in that position is to get the seller every single dime. So we won't misrepresent it. But if a buyer agent came along, okay, and they believe they can build on it and haven't done their due diligence and don't ask us the question, then and we've had that happen where they've bought properties that we didn't represent as being building lots, just a vacant piece of property, and disclosed like conservation portions and all those things on it. And the agent didn't do their due diligence. So the buyer didn't use someone who was educated about purchasing vacant land or property in that area. And next thing you know, they find out they have all these restrictions and they're upset, right? We had an agent that actually bought for themselves a property that we had up for sale, right? And so it's not our job as a listing agent to represent that it's not buildable, right? If we've said you need to do your own due diligence, and then you just have to be careful how you advertise. So understand that, like if you're an agent out there and you are going to be purchasing properties for people or selling properties, you do need someone to give you some assistance. If you're high on due diligence and you're going to do all the research and go to every single department and find out what it is, great. It's going to take you a lot of time. This shortcut is to go to someone like Mike who can, co-list it, help you with it, take it over, give you a referral, and actually do it right? Yeah. And then you don't get sued and you have happy clients. Right.
You'll look at our listings, like even like our development stuff or even like the land stuff we have. Every single one is that you'll have all the mapping from Lake Simcoe Conservation Story, just not from their interactive map. You actually have, through working in this space, you have contacts at every department for every jurisdiction. You get the actual mapping for that property attached to the listing. The zoning, verified, attached to that listing. Permitted uses, attached to that listing. So like you're teeing people up and you're providing a big service to your seller to move a product that is already challenging to sell in the first place. But you're keeping one up. So what I've working in the space that I'm in, and especially all real estate agents, like, yes, we are in sales, but my job, I'm a problem solver. I solve the problems before they even come up, because we're going.
Anticipate.
It's not really they're not really problems. I don't like using that term. I like to say
challenges.
I find solutions is basically the way that I like to put it. However, like we're beating out like commercial brokerages that are well known across the nation on listings because of how prepared we are.
Yeah, and it's so true. I think that's the other piece, is not becoming complacent, right? Providing a very high level and a high standard of what you do and being consistent in the delivery of that. And we always say, like, not so much in, doing land development and things like that. It's a different place, but we deal with a lot of residential agents listening. So for you, we always say, if an agent or if a client reaches out to you and asks a question, 9 times out of 10, you failed. Mm-hmm. Because you should have been able to anticipate the question that you were going to get asked, right?
I agree. Inside that, I'm going to piggyback off that. And if a lot of the time, if we're getting questions asked even from the buying side on some of the properties that we're selling, we've already lost.
We failed, yeah.
We should already have that information there for them. I mean, you get some wild questions sometimes. You can't get them all because Some of them you can't anticipate. However, we're prepared.
Yeah. Well, it's like even selling, we have properties we sell on Georgina Island, right? So amazing cottage properties, but on the island, those are land lease. So on the current listing for 332 Vera that we have up right now, I have a whole frequently asked questions and answers, right? It's like 2 pages of how do I show, what is included, like all the questions we're going to get asked ahead of time. I had an agent call me yesterday. They're like, hey, want to ask a question. I'm like, have you referred to the attachment on the listing where I answer every single question you're going to ask me? And if there's something on there, I'm happy to answer it. I can go through that now. And just so you know, even the ferry schedule is attached, right? Like,
Head of it. And sometimes we get into properties that are so complex, we have full data rooms available with every study done, all surveying, all mapping, all jurisdiction homework, whatever the seller had or whatever we have done. It's in a full data room. We create links. I can literally send it to a buying agent and go, have a look, and then give me a call with any questions you got.
yeah. Yeah, that was like the Dalton Road property we sold beside the practitioner's office. That had potential development. They had gone and gone through the process, but it kind of expired out, all those documents. But still, like having it all printed, put it in, it was all bound. Everyone that came through could actually flip through and take a copy home of all potential things that could have been done, right? As long as they reapplied and went back through the process. It's just, it's just about being prepared, right?
It is, and it doesn't matter, quite frankly. In residential, you want to be local experts and stuff. You can find any information at any township. They have it available for you. It's just like, how much work and time are you going to put into it to provide the service for your client? And as you do it, you get better at it. You know how to find it easier and quicker. However, there's no real excuse for not finding the information properly or providing it. You need
Agreed. Now, is there any book you've read that's had a significant impression on you, like business related?
Yeah, and this is a popular one. This is not necessarily like motivational wise or whatever, but it's Never Split the Difference. I listened to that book. I listened to it. I'm not much of a reader. This was funny because all I do is read files for stuff. But when it comes to a book, it's not about that. I listen to Never Split the Difference at least once or twice a year for the last since you provided it to us when you first started your team. So,
and is there any tip from Chris Voss's Never Split the Difference? Like, is there one tip that would stand out that you would give to an agent?
It's really funny, and maybe not a tip that he actually says in the book, but the way that it is read to you, it is the persistency and the patience that he has when he's dealing with this. And he does not get worked up, and he does not overreact. So, and especially if you're doing any type of land or any kind of commercial stuff, you better have some patience because it's going to exercise it.
Yeah, I love that. Well, I think my favorite tip from that book would be essentially the silence, right? So, you're negotiating with the other side. And that could be like you're even talking to your spouse. You're negotiating with your teenage child, right? Or basically you just, you ask a question. So, let's say you're talking with another agent, right? And they say to you, I don't know. Let's say you want to get out of them what the motivation is for the client, right? So establishing rapport, starting to ask questions, right? Building that relationship and then asking like, hey, are they going through a divorce? And then stop talking. Then just be completely silent, right? Because silence, when you're in control of it and you understand what the intention is, you're the one in control, right? But it makes the other person uncomfortable because people are generally uncomfortable with silence and attempt to fill it, right? So they'll always end up telling you more than they intended, particularly if they're newer agents, right? And aren't yet skilled. That's why we make it mandatory that actually everyone joining our team read that book. That is part of our boot camp training is reading Never Split the Difference.
Yeah, and a big portion of why I like to talk on the phone is you let people talk, you're going to get a lot more information. And it's just all and like keep asking, like Jen, you grew your business on open houses. I adopted that when I started working with Jen. I love doing open house. I don't do them anymore, but I love doing open houses. And that's how I grew my own business, was from
That's
open
right.
home. And we have all our scripting inside the team, which is phenomenal. And like, we get talking to people on the team that are new agents. They said, take the scripting, put your own spin on it, put your own personality into it. Like, I can find out basically where anyone lives probably in about 5 questions. So it's like,
Right.
how good are you at asking the questions and taking in the information that they're giving you?
I love that. And how critical do you think mindset, like having a really great mindset, affects the business that you do?
Yeah, for sure. It can be challenging to stay in a positive mindset and like a driven mindset all the time. And maybe some people won't agree with me on this, but we get talking somewhere about accountability calls where they're feeling a bit overwhelmed or had a frustrating day outside of real estate, inside real estate. And I said to mentally reset yourself, and I have to do this myself too. I'm like, take your hour, take your afternoon, take your day. Get over it and keep going and being positive about it. Because if you keep stewing over the same one, it's going to drag you down for 3, 4, 5 days, 2 weeks, right? So deal with that in this state with your positive mindset, but deal with whatever's going on. I have to shout out to Adrian, one of our newer agents. He actually calls it a popcorn day. He just sits back, eats popcorn, and lets stuff hit the fan. And I'm like, there's nothing wrong with that. Then loop back into what your main purpose is here.
I like that popcorn. Popcorn's great.
Popcorn.
I love
Yeah.
popcorn.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I thought it was pretty cool.
Yeah, exactly. It's like whatever you need to do to get back to your mindset. For me, it would be like, at that point, I'll give myself, like, let's say 60 seconds, right? To like feel it, maybe get upset, right? And then I will release it and I will focus back on, putting, let's say, a YouTube mindset video, like something that I'm going to listen to that will get me back right. Because you realize that in real estate, the more in control you are of your emotions, the better you will do, the better realtor you are, be it commercial, be it land development, be it residential. By not going down the rabbit hole with either your clients or the agent on the other side, you're ultimately going to win. You just keep your eye on the prize. What is the best outcome for my client?
Mm-hmm.
That's what I'm focused on, right?
Definitely. And when you are talking to other agents or clients or anyone that calls you on the phone, the thing that I find most effective, because I'm the phone call guy, always have a smile on your face. I don't care what's going on in the background. I don't care. Don't lay down. Don't sit down. Don't frown. Don't put your other stuff into your voice. They know it. They can hear it.
Yes.
And it shows that you're lacking confidence.
That's right. Or you're lazy. One or the other.
You're laying down making phone calls, which for you, good, I guess. I don't know.
Right? It's interesting too. Like, so you're a diabetic. I was wearing a CGM. Like, I wanted to know what was going on with my blood sugar. And what I found too is that, and you and I had a conversation about this, which is when you get upset, your insulin level goes up. It spikes, right?
Yep.
And as a diabetic, or for anyone out there, if they're getting upset and their insulin is going up, they're spiking, how are they feeling? What's the physical effect on their body, Mike?
Thirsty, groggy, tired. There's lots of side effects from it. Your body will catch up to it if you're not diabetic. However, the stress and that strain that you are putting out and that energy out, it'll spike your sugar levels. And I've had scenarios that I ended up hospitalized over it. I couldn't contain it. It was recently. Really evaluate of like what you're going to hold on to, what are you not going to hold on to, because it will affect your body negatively in one way or the other.
Yeah, and I think like thinking, oh, I'm younger, I'm going to be fine, right? It's not true. Like over a period of time with that spiking insulin, where you allow yourself to have your blood sugar spike and now your insulin spikes, right? You're doing damage to your body long term. So in order to be in control of your emotions, really, where you're not just suppressing the emotion, but releasing it. So like going for a walk, going and doing yoga, going to the gym, like having things that you do physically that help bring that stress level down. Because I think too, when, if you're getting upset and your blood sugar spiking, your insulin spiking, you're then exhausted, right? You're more likely now to reach for carbs and sugar or alcohol. right, to medicate. And now you feel worse and it affects the next day. And then that's a cycle that continues as well. So how important do you think like your health is to how you perform in real estate?
Massively, because one, I find, and I've been through this recently, so I can attest to it, is that like if you are stressing yourself out or you're doing something that's affecting your body negatively, not only is it going to affect you on your insides, it's actually going to affect you mentally. You'll find that you'll become foggy, and if you're foggy, you're not good for much in real estate. To be honest with you, you're not performing, and you're not doing your fiduciary responsibilities that you have for your clientele. Yeah. So you need to stay healthy mentally and physically, and that's why I'll loop back into what I even talk about in accountability calls. Sometimes, like if you're finding yourself, you're really pushing yourself to the brink. No one's gonna give you a hard time for saying, "Hey, I'm taking the day off. I just need a reset. I'm going to the beach. I'm going to walk in the woods. I'm going to take my dog for a walk," whatever it might be. Good on you. Take care of yourself, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's like taking that day. Well, it's interesting too, because when I was interviewing Glenn Sanford, so that's our billionaire founder of eXp Realty, even in passing conversation with him, asking him like, okay, he works like crazy from 1989 to present to have the company at 90,000 realtors globally. So I said to him, do you have those days, right? Like people think, oh, the better you do, you don't struggle at all. You don't have those days, right? You don't have those days, right, Mike?
No.
And I said to him, so what happens? Like, do you have those days where you think, oh, geez, like I quit, right? Like I just quit. And he said, absolutely. He said, once in a while, I have those days. And he said, that might be like, I'm just watching Netflix all day. Like I just take a day, give myself the permission to not do anything. And then I just step back into it the next day. So It's understanding this can't be a consistent thing because then it affects your consistency and therefore your outcome. But if you need this every once in a while where you're just not coping, it's okay. The only caution I would have is, let's say you have listings, right? And there's showings going on or there's buyers calling. You still have an obligation to make sure that as a bare minimum, you're handling those things, right? Yep. You can't be like, okay, I'm turning off my phone and I'm not going to respond at all to emergencies, right? No. It doesn't work that way, guys.
It might loop into, maybe today I said I was going to do 50 dials or 50 door knocks. Well, maybe that's going to be put on the back burner. You still, like, when we even take, and Jenn will test this better than anyone, even when we take days off, we are technically not off.
So what a great time we've spent here, Mike. And I sure hope that for you agents out there that are listening to this, that you're getting something from this. And remember, if you're going to be listing vacant land or, development land, farmland, and you want assistance, Mike is someone that could, take your listing as a referral, pay you back a percentage, or co-list where you can learn from him. And again, do you want to just go through how they could reach you, Mike?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm always happy to chat on the phone. Like I said, that's the easiest way to get a hold of me. My cell phone number is 647-330-2033. You can text that as well. Or, of course, you can email me and I'll always get back to you. It's mike@jj.team.
Amazing. Okay, well, thank you so much.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
I appreciate you.
Appreciate you more.